My name is Mark Labwitz. Let me be an additional voice on this panel to welcome the group for all the folks in the room and for even more on Zoom. So that's the end of my Dr. Seuss impression. I am the Director of Technology and Computational Strategies, and in this capacity, I have been and participated for the last 3 years with Intelligent and have seen the transition of Intelligent technology from the concept in Tom's book, Small Changes, Big Results, was it $99.95 at Barnes & Noble, to the robust and efficacious and rapidly advancing technology and product set that we have today. In my brief remarks, I will motivate intelligence measures, and others, particularly Pooja, will talk about how it's done, and then we'll have people talking about what experience they've had. So let's focus upon, first slide. What Intelligent focuses upon guidance about the fitness of companies to respond to a host of potential climate scenarios. I believe we have some white papers which go into more detail about this and that are up here, and please help yourself for as long as they last. This guidance is in the form of measurements and answers which might be used in investment decisions that demonstrate both efficacy, both theoretically as well as operationally. Intelligent offers this climate risk guidance to multiple stakeholders operating in the capital markets, and they're listed, some of the stakeholders are listed there. Could I have the next slide, please? So in my 45 years of data modeling, and it really is 45 years, 15 to 20 of which have been in financial markets and services, what I have found is that the quality offerings and models generally have the following three characteristics or properties. They're efficacious, they provide insight, and they're integrable. And so I will briefly highlight examples supporting these characteristics with regard to intelligence results. Next slide, please. So I'll start with a stock picking, next slide. I'll start with a stock picking example to show you efficacy. And this is for the companies in the industrial sector. We used a host of financial factors and e-scores, which is the intelligent, one of the Intelligent flagship products, to guide the selection of companies and to, we looked at poison them against ground truth in form of returns. The e-scores and financial factors had as a time hack a 2-year lead on the actual returns. So these data are computed at the end of 2016, the e-scores and the financial factors, and the returns that they're compared against are end of 2018. You can see the financial factors we used included are on the right-hand side of the screen of a host of financial factors, including price to earnings, price to book, price to free cash flow, a host of momentum, volatility, Merton, Piotrowski, Graham, Rhee, and Greenblatt measurements. And the whole idea was to, the plot on the left-hand side shows the analysis criteria, the proportion of measurements which are greater than or equal to the returns. So if you look at the left-hand side of that slide, you'll see that the criteria, 72% of the e-scores were equal to or in excess of the criteria with regard to the return. A very high number. The financial factors did very well. They're somewhat more scattered, but approximately the same level. But the really exciting thing is that on the right-hand side of the chart, you can see the combination of both of them allowed us to achieve an 80% in terms of the criteria that we were looking at. And the combination is great, including the highest being Greenblatt at about 80%. Greenblatt and the e-scores. Could I have the next slide, please? In terms of insight, we recently started to do climate stress evaluation of the 11 GIC sectors. In this case, we took the e-scores at the security level, grouped them in portfolio by sectors, bootstrapped them, transformed them to asymptotic normality, sorry for the buzz, and then estimated value at risk at a 95 95% value risk computed and sorted, and the results is an ordering of the industrial sectors which exhibit the least to greatest sensitivity to climate at the extremes over the host of climate scenarios that we represent here. So we move from consumer services, the least sensitive in the stress area, to the industrials, the most sensitive in the stress area. Well, we started to do this analysis, and what you can see, there are groupings of these sectors that we will look into further. But the point is that it's relatively stable. We've done it over 2 years, and there's no significant difference between the two sets of stress, one at the end of 2016, one at the end of 2018. People ask me, or have asked me, what I would, how I would use this. So I've looked at the idea of building sector-specific security, and I would pay attention to these results, the distributional quality of these results or quantities for the choice in formulation. And of course, we're going to look at this at much finer classification levels. Finally, I want to talk about integration. And integration with bottom-up scores with Scope 1 emissions. We have a note as well on this. I have a plan. We have a note somewhere in the room detailing the results of this. We are increasingly interested, and anybody in the audience who has bottom-up data, we're really interested in talking about how we can possibly integrate these together. These analyses, I think they're going to bottom-up, top-down data. I think bringing them together is going to make both data sets much better. So I'd like to see that. So let's level set ourselves. Definition of Scope 1 emissions. Those are our emissions, direct emissions from the company-owned or controlled sources. And so what we did was we looked at these scores and affinitized them. Oh, I should say that the data we used were from the Carbon Disclosure Project vis-a-vis our friends at CSR Hub. Thank you very much. And these scores were affinitized with Scope 1 emissions in the analysis. The results are given here that E-scores possess a time-leading affinity to Scope 1 carbon emissions. Well, what does that mean? Companies with low E-scores display a lower footprint of a la the Scope 1 carbon emissions, and the results exist for both time coincident periods as well as up to a 2-year lead of E-scores versus the Scope 1 climate carbon emissions. So that gives you an idea of some of the, we have a host of other examples. I was given 7 minutes. I'm probably over my 7 minutes, but I just wanted to give you a taste for some of the things we've done at Intelligent in trying to show how and what we do with these data, and trying to motivate the idea of looking further into why and how we do it. And Pooja will take over at that. So I'd be happy to answer questions at the end, or mingle around and answer questions, or disappear and not answer questions. But thank you very much.
Thank you.